Now the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Geraghty.
And welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch, along with Jim Geraghty of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. A special edition today of the Three Martini Lunch. We do this on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving each November, and it's the three things we're politically thankful for in 2014. And Jim, lead us off.
Look, the midterm elections gave us a lot to feel cheerful about. I think the angle I'm going to pick as a particularly necessary one this year and at this moment was, I think it was a bit of a restoration of faith for conservatives. I think since the 2012 election, there had been a great deal of cynicism, a great deal of depression, and even despair. People saying that we've lost this country. No one particularly cares. We're a nation of takers, not makers. Just kind of a deep-rooted cynicism and lack of faith in the American people. Now, look, turnout was not terribly high. This was largely driven by a dramatic drop in Democratic turnout while the Republicans are fired up. But look, I think either days running up to the election, there are a lot of people said, what's the use? The elections are rigged, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact that Republicans won pretty big should make conservatives, look, your vote does make a difference. Your actions do make a difference. You should not be giving up on this country at this point. That there's still a lot of life left in America, and we can push this country in the direction we want to see.
Obviously, that's my number one as well. Very successful midterm elections, as you made the argument shortly thereafter, Jim. Perhaps on many levels even more successful than the 2010 ones, because we had picked the low-hanging fruit, and on a lot of those swing districts in the House and some of the Senate races, and certainly after letting a few Senate races get away in 2010 and 2012. There was plenty of fears out there that Republicans might not get to the majority this year. Not only did they get there, they won pretty much all the tight races except for New Hampshire, and some other races that weren't even supposed to be close, like Virginia, ended up being very tight. And while there might have been depressed Democratic turnout, still the people who cared showed up, and the polls turned out to be not very accurate. Republicans winning comfortably even in the very tight races that were supposed to happen in places like Kansas and Iowa and Colorado. Tom Tillis defying the pollsters, in fact, by beating out Kay Hagan in North Carolina. And so I think the margins, in addition to the results, were very, very encouraging on election night. And hopefully we're not just ping-ponging back between midterm and general election years. Hopefully 2016 shows more of the same, even though Republicans obviously are playing a whole lot more defense, particularly on the Senate side, in addition to the presidential race. So politically, this year went about as well as it could have.
I largely concur. So for my second item of being thankful, or second thing I'm thankful for, I'm looking to the why of the pretty darn good midterm election results. And I think we can now safely say the media environment has changed very dramatically in this country. And it does not always work to the advantage of conservatives. But to pick one very good example, the last couple of weeks of the election in Colorado, Gawker, the website, which is perhaps even nowhere near as nice as its name suggests, suggested that Cory Gardner had lied about playing high school football. And I believe within 2 hours, the Gardner campaign had put up with pictures of him playing football and testimony from his coach and all that stuff. And it was all based on one exceptionally dubious source that Gawker put up there and basically had to run an utterly humiliating, hey, we got everything in the story wrong type retraction. And so I think you look at that, you look at the rise of online media. The Media Research Center had observed that the network news largely ignored the midterm elections this cycle. And there's a lot of speculation as to why that was. They thought they were doing it because they wanted to downplay the elections. Liberals don't like to cover elections where Democrats are expected to lose. And there's certainly an undoubtedly amount of that. I wonder if there was an attitude of, there's no point in talking about it, because if we talk about it, the low information voters might feel upset about the way the country is going and vote for the Republicans. And I think that there was something to that, in that we reached a point in this country where the media could not spin and say, no, things are going great. The economy's roaring. We're safer. Don't worry about that person coughing next to you. They probably don't have Ebola. ISIS has only beheaded a few Americans so far. Things reached a point in this country where they were so bad, they just couldn't spin it any further. Oh, Obamacare is great, that kind of stuff. And so I think I'm very thankful for the fact that despite our frustration, despite the fact that there are certain stories that get wildly overhyped and ones that we think don't get enough attention, I think the tide is starting to shift. And I think the results of this cycle indicate that we've hit the limits of media bias, and the media cannot drive Democrats to victory when the dynamics and general, overall condition of the country is what it is.
Yeah, my second thankful is also still related to the midterm elections with a slightly different way, and that is being thankful for some of the folks who won't be in Washington anymore, some who lost, some who are retiring. When you look at the senators in particular who lost and the campaigns they tried to run to pretend they were somebody who they clearly weren't. I remember Mark Pryor opening the Bible and explaining how he's one of you, even though he voted against the wishes of Arkansas people on every critical issue, including ones that a lot of people think are biblically rooted, like abortion. He's pro-choice all the way around. He tried that feeble ad one time to defend his vote on Obamacare. Kay Hagan ran away from a record. Mark Begich clearly did. And some of these other folks just absolutely trying to deceive the American people, and it didn't work. Then you have the retirees who were going to leave anyway, but it's still great to see them go. Tom Harkin, who certainly did not distinguish himself in the final days of that Iowa race by comparing Joni Ernst to Taylor Swift. You have Jay Rockefeller, who is basically an enemy of his state's economy with his global warming crusade against the coal industry. Henry Waxman, who was a thorn in the side of rationally thinking people everywhere on the Oversight Committee for years. And, of course, locally, there's no one we're glad to see gone, especially his constituents like you, Jim, in Jim Moran. Not only just voting wrong on everything, but pretty much a detestable person in every conceivable fashion.
A congressional enema there, Greg. All great selections, and I was tempted to put some of those on there. I was also tempted to take my third thing I'm thankful for to be the return of Twin Peaks to Showtime in 2016. But keeping with the political theme, you listed a lot of folks. But you missed one, Greg.
Who's that?
And I got to tell you, the fact that Charlie Crist will not be returning to the governor's mansion in Florida is something I find spectacularly worthy of excitement. Because first of all, it gives him the distinct honor of being the first man to lose races as a Republican and an independent and a member of the Democratic Party. He may eventually go on to be a Green Party candidate or libertarian or something else, just to complete the cycle. The ease with which Charlie Crist switched parties and, broke his word on that whether he was going to go independent against Marco Rubio and things like that, kind of is the distilled essence of everything people don't like about politics. A kind of ruthless, craven ambition, his interests at all costs, no permanent allies, no permanent enemies, just doing whatever is in his best interest at any given moment. So good riddance, Charlie Crist. Go back to your law firm ads. And it's just very good for Florida and I think the country that this kind of embarrassing, shameless ambition has been rebuked by the voters of Florida.
Yeah, that was a great thing to see on election night because neither one of us predicted that would happen, and it was just part of the wave, and that was good. We could probably throw Wendy Davis on that pile, too, about people who never did get elected to the office that they sought. I don't think too many people, obviously, in Texas are going to miss her from the political scene. My last one is just about the podcast. We celebrated 4 years in October. We're going strong. The numbers keep growing. We thank you for all of that. Jim relayed some very kind comments from folks who were with him on the Caribbean cruise from National Review. And Jim, this is just one of my favorite parts of the day. It's how I start off the day. I always have it to look forward to. And even when there's horrible things happening in the world, which is pretty much every day, we can somehow, usually by your creativity, find humor in it. And just being able to keep doing the podcast day after day, week after week is a true joy. And I thank you for that. And I thank our listeners for that.
Well, Greg, thank you. Thank you for thanks to the listeners, and also, Greg, thank you for doing the heavy lifting. Because I just show up and try to say something funny. You actually get all this organized and handle all the tech side and things like that with great success almost every day. We've got to get you to the good studio more often. And just say again, thank you to the listeners, and I hope everyone has a very good and enjoyable Thanksgiving today and tomorrow.
Absolutely. Jim Geraghty of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Reminder, no 3 Martini lunch on Thanksgiving. Have a great time with your family and friends. We'll be back on Friday for the next 3 Martini lunch.